Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm putting up a video of my very first road race. I will be completely honest, I was on the verge of not posting this because one, the footage was a little bit boring, and two, this is a bit embarrassing, but my GoPro ran out of battery and it missed the whole second half of the race, which was where all the action happened. So I'm going to go ahead and spoil the race result right now, and this is the outcome of the race here.
In the gutter.
And here. And I'm just going to spend the rest of this video just having a chat about the race, what kind of things happened, and I'll go into a bit about the finish. Anyway, how could I not upload a video about this race when the footage looks this good? My gosh, look at those rays coming through the trees, the clouds, the fog, just beautiful weather. So I had to share it with you guys, and I hope you enjoy the video, albeit a little bit boring. Alright, so this is the West Head Road Race. It is hosted by the Manly Warringah Cycling Club, which is actually the cycling club that I am signed up with, and it is in the far north of Sydney, up near the northern beaches, and we have this beautiful 10-kilometre out and back piece of road which they closed off for this race. So one out and back 20 kilometres is essentially one lap. We are riding in C grade today, so it is a bit over a 40-kilometre race, so about 45 to be exact. Now the thing that characterises this race is definitely the hills. This is probably the hilliest road race of all time that I know of. It's got over 800, almost 900 metres elevation within those two laps, and it is not any long climbs but lots of short punchy climbs. Now the number one thing I was thinking is, I'm a pretty light skinny guy, maybe this is what's suited for me, but what I quickly realised is these climbs are very power climbs. There's only one climb in there that's probably a watts per kilo climb, and so the name of the game for me was to conserve energy. Anyway, the start of the race starts off with us heading briefly south for a turnaround point which is 1 kilometre away. Now without doing this race, I originally thought that the end of the race was at this point here, but you actually do a 180-degree turnaround before you head back to where that race started, and that's the finish line there. So this will be instrumental later on for the tactics of the race and also for my race result. Now unfortunately for us, because the GoPro only filmed the first half of the race, there wasn't actually that much action in the first half. People were taking it quite easy. A couple of people tried doing a few sneaky moves to see if they could get off, but there's a few reasons why doing a breakaway here at West Head in C grade is almost impossible. Number one, there's all the downhills where the group will be working together to bring you back, whereas you're working solo and everyone in the group is just resting except for the front people. And number two, because it is a straight out and back, there is almost no scenario where the peloton doesn't have you in their sights. So they will always be able to see you and hunt you down. For this reason, I didn't think I stood much of a chance in a breakaway. There's no opportunities like cornering to make up time here, so I decided the best strategy for me would be to hide in the wheels, take the occasional turn on the front if I had to, but mainly conserve energy and commit 100% to a very late attack, which I will talk about in a bit. The C grade field today had about 23 people signed up before the race, and I think maybe a couple of people signed up on the day, so it's close to 30 people. So this is one of the biggest races I've done so far, and what you'll find is with 30 people, that whole one lane can get crowded. It's not like this. In some ways this was like a spicy group ride, but in other ways people are not allowing you to just come in and take a wheel, and people are very protective of their spot within the peloton. So to some degree it's not like a spicy group ride. This is our first lap of the out and back, so it's a little bit of a reconnaissance mission for me. I've ridden this road quite a few times, but this is the first time I've done it under race conditions, and also a lot of the hills are very similar to each other, so I was trying to mentally prepare myself for which hills would be harder and which ones would be easier. The other thing to note is you can see the cones here on the right hand side. We're very close to the finish line now, and you can see there's actually quite a bit of an uphill drag. It's almost 5 to 6%, and on top of that there is also a bend in the road, so you can't even see the finish line until you're within 50 meters of it, so that is something that's really tricky. Anyway, I'm quite happy with my position. I've placed myself in the front half of the peloton within the front 3 wheels, and a couple of things that I'm thinking about this race is number one, stay in the front half of the group. Now the reason for that is if there's any attacks that get away, it's easier to respond to them. You don't get caught up in crashes, which there was a couple of today actually, unfortunately all in the second half of the race. and also making sure that you don't have to do a huge amount of watts when there's a bit of an accordion effect when you go over the crest of the hills. Number 2, don't do any pulls on the downhill. I only was doing pulls on the uphill. That's where I can definitely make the rest of the people hurt a bit more and suffer. And the third was to find opportunities to move back to the front of the group without expending any extra energy, whether that's sitting in someone's wheel as they move up the group, or for example on the downhills when people are freewheeling, just popping out to the side and just using that opportunity just to coast down to the front of the group. Now here's the young gun again. I swear he appears in all my videos, but he is actually a bit of a hitter and he does every single race that it seems, and to quite a bit of success. He won Heart Crit on Friday, so props to him. He's a lot stronger than he looks. So people in the comments, stop roasting me for saying that I shouldn't have let him do a turn. He definitely needs to do more turns, I reckon. But look at this guy here on the right. He gets the most stitched up out of all the riders I think I witnessed this weekend. So he's here on the front. People are pedaling quite hard, young guns in the aero tuck, and he's just sitting out in the wind, just pedaling. People coming round the front of him, and he's not even jumping in the draft. Mate, if you're watching this video, you need to be sitting behind a wheel here. I think he wanted to slot in here. I wasn't letting him have any of that because the last thing I want to do is be stuck behind him. But look at him, he's still eating wind. This guy is having a full degustation meal of wind for every course. Now, as fun as this race was to actually be in the race, I think as a spectator watching this footage, it's pretty boring because it pretty much followed the same formula for the whole race, which was push it really hard up the hill, coast down the hill. Push it really hard up the hill, coast down the hill. A couple of people tried some attacks on the hills and tried to get away, but ultimately it was unsuccessful. I did see them go, but I never really made the effort to bring them back because I kind of had a feeling that it was going to end in a reduced bunch sprint. Leading up to the hills, my goal was to be near the front of the group so that I could slowly slide to the back and have a more smooth power instead of having to spike all the way up the hill. And you might be saying to yourself, viewer, you're a 60 kilo Asian boy, what are you doing at the back of the group sliding through the bunch on an uphill? And I'll be honest with you, I just do not have the raw power just to power it up these climbs. I'm more of a long distance rider. I think about a 10-minute climb is probably my sweet spot. So yeah, I was definitely conscious of that, and I was quite conscious of not burning myself on every single hill. Now I'm going to skip ahead to the end of the first lap. This is just before the turnaround point. We're pushing up that really steep hill before the turnaround, and I'm just going to talk about this here because this plays out very similar to how the end of the race was. You can see here that once you hit this turnaround point, because it's such a sharp turn, the whole peloton has to stretch out essentially into single file, and I was super conscious of this, so I knew I had to be in the top few wheels if I was ever going to have a chance. Similar to what you see in the footage here, I made sure I was up there behind my friend Owen here, and the problem is once you turn around that corner it goes into a steep downhill, and if you are not connected to that front bunch, you will not have a chance to even make it to the finish line in that front group. You'll be contesting for a place somewhere in the mid pack. On the last lap heading towards the finish line, there was about 6 of us, and I positioned myself quite nicely at the back of it. Now I don't have a high top end, but I'm pretty sure I can follow someone on an uphill drag as long as I'm in the draft. So that's what I was doing this whole time on the last lap leading up to the finish line. I was making sure that I was always sitting behind someone, and when people opened up their sprint, that's when I went for it. Now unfortunately the gas ran out of the tank. There was a point in time where I was actually coming second, but my good friend Julio pipped me on the line. He came around me, and afterwards he shook my hand and thanked me for a nice lead out to him to the finish line. I guess I'm his domestique for this one. Once again, apologies that I don't have the footage from the second half of the race or the finish. You'll just have to use your imagination and my vivid storytelling to fill in those gaps. But look guys, I've got some more races coming up. I'm going to try and find a solution to film for these longer races. Maybe I need to buy some more heavy duty batteries or find a different video system like the Insta360 instead of the GoPro. But I'm definitely working on something, and I hope to see you guys soon. Now, if you're enjoying this crit content, I would really appreciate if you could like or subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you enjoy this race, if you've done the Westhead Road race, or you've got any races here in Sydney that you'd like to see me do. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.